Greetings, Vault Hunters, and welcome to Echoes from the Borderlands, the podcast where we explore the iconic Borderlands franchise through conversations with the writers, devs, artists, and others who are responsible for its creation and success. I'm your host, Joel Watson, and today we are talking about what lies beyond the looting, beyond the shooting, beyond the Borderlands. I'm joined by co-founder of Gearbox Software and president and founder of the Gearbox Entertainment Company, Randy Pitchford, president of Gearbox Properties, Randy Varnell, and director of Gearbox Cinema and Cinematics Group, Matthew Ward. Welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, awesome to be here.
Yeah, I like the way you said beyond the. It felt like you're on the Borderlands. It's like you could do Rod Serling stuff now with that.
We are stepping
We're going
beyond.
to take you beyond the Borderlands.
Let's talk about Beyond the Borderlands. There's 4 main games, 15 DLCs, not including seasonal content and live events, multiple spin-offs, including Tales from the Borderlands and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, over 80 million copies of Borderlands games sold worldwide, making it one of the best-selling franchises in video game history. It's expanded into card games, comics, novels, and now a feature film is on the way from Lionsgate, directed by Eli Roth. Where does the Borderlands go from here?
Oh, man. We're just getting started, buddy. By the way, props for including Borderlands, the pre-sequel, as a main game. You said 4 main games.
Yeah.
I presume that's because good for you. Not everybody does that. And
It's well-loved.
I noticed. It is. It's awesome. You can play as Claptrap. I thought that was going to be the end. Once we did that, cool, we did everything we set out to do. But in fact, no, we have lots of unfinished business.
Absolutely.
We're just getting started. We don't even, like, this is like, listen, we're on a crazy train.
I.
Yeah.
Randy, you've been there since day one. You know, you've talked to us on the first episode of this podcast, and here we are at the end of this season. You've watched and guided the franchise's growth since before its inception. Do you feel ultimately responsible for the health of that franchise? Or do you still feel that way, and have you empowered others to be stewards of Borderlands?
Total empowerment. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think of my job at Gearbox Entertainment as being the most accountable.
I've heard you say that a lot.
Yeah. It's like, it's not about authority and responsibility. It's about when shit goes wrong, I've got to take the bullet. I'm the bullet sponge.
The iridium stops here.
I think that's true, right? Like every time that I've heard you say that phrase, it's usually like, we've got a problem. Okay, I'm the most responsible. Let's just figure it out. But like Randy's been awesome to work with over the years because he, when I think of some of the best moments that we've had in the last, I've been here almost 15 years now. Not you, right? It's been sorry.
God, it feels like at least 30.
just with Varnell.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Oh, it's pulling teeth every day. No, but the moments that we've been around the table and so many times, I can't even count the number of times it's been you and me and a dozen other people in a room around a table. And we've been breaking a story in the good way, right?
Yeah.
Figuring it out, determining what lingo. It is, right? Yeah, lingo.
That's industry lingo for...
And maybe sometimes breaking a story, too.
Yeah.
We usually put it back together.
And being broken by a story.
When you break something, you fixed it, actually.
God, but surrounded in a room with, like, it's the classic writers who are, like, whiteboards and pictures of characters. And there was even a time during, like, the Borderlands 3, it was, like, the weird red yarn. Like,
we totally did that.
Of, like, the detective story, who did this and what was all that.
I came in on a weekend and did the whole freaking put it on that little board there.
There are whiteboards all throughout this office that would shock and terrify you in their level of, is the person that made this okay? Like,
and what's
yes and no.
What's awesome whenever we come back to that, you're talking about like what's beyond. Like every time we kind of come and we're working on the next thing, we kind of do have this moment where we account for what's been. Like, what are all the pieces on the table? And we don't have a table big enough for all the pieces anymore.
It's true. That's, I think, one of the most challenging things is, there's so much to do, so when we're making new stuff, we always want to tread new ground, but we have so much love for all the characters and the situations, and there's all this unfinished business that's always lingering, and we keep wanting to attend to that. And that balance between attending to unfinished business while forging new territory and also factoring the stuff that we never got to do that we always wanted to do. As each step in new technology and new capability comes, that's always a part of it. It's a crazy balance between all these three things. And
what do you think the percentage of Borderlands in the world is compared to what you've wanted to put out there?
Oh God,
I know this, but I'm gonna let you answer
less
it.
Less than 1%.
Yeah,
less than 1%. There's so much to do. It's gonna. That's one of the reasons. You asked me earlier. One of the reasons why part of like the way I think about things is making sure that people are empowered and that everyone is putting themselves in the games too. Because we're not gonna get there. I'm gonna be dead. Even if I live to like 105 and we're going to maybe be like a quarter of the way through what we really should be doing here. Yeah. And, there's not enough time, but
you set a huge bar for us. I mean, the motto of the company is entertain the world.
Yeah. We're failing miserably.
We haven't reached the 8 billion mark yet.
I know, like right. 80 million units. Yahoo! Oh, wait a minute.
That's 0.01%.
Yeah, right. That we got to reach somehow.
Oh my goodness.
We got a lot of work to do.
So Pitchford has been here since the beginning. Varnell, you just said you've been here since 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Ward, how long have you been at Gearbox?
I just rounded 2 years.
Newbie.
Woo! Yeah. That's right, noob.
You are a babe.
It's funny. It feels like 6 weeks.
I think I've been here a little bit longer than you.
Just
though,
ever so slightly.
Just ever so slightly. Yeah.
But I walk around with authority. So
you do. Well, the hair.
But I think what's awesome is this whole journey at Gearbox. We were talking a little bit about before. Has been finding more and new creative partners to work with, and we're bringing you on is it's another the chapter's leveled up a little bit.
I'm just great. I'm blown away. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I get to work on the same team as you. Like,
I mean, well,
dude,
it's
you worked on
mutual.
the Matrix. What the fuck?
Before we get
In
to
the
your
Matrix.
your Matrix times, let's go a little bit further back. Where did each of you come in with Borderlands specifically?
Oh,
Randy,
this is great. Oh, you want to hear from me first?
Yeah,
Me
because
first.
you're further back.
Oh
in the
yeah,
past.
we've already heard from like obviously Pitchford has been
I'm
here
trying to go chronologically, and you're the oldest person I've ever met. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, I will have to say for the record, let the record state that Randy Pitchford has Randy Varnell by 2 months.
That's true.
Oh.
Right, right.
We were very close.
Very close, but I will have to
I pull
forever
rank.
call him senior, right? I came at one of the most interesting times as a developer. So I started Gearbox. It's actually not quite 15 years. It's March 2009. And you remember Borderlands released that fall, I think October 2009, right, is when it was. So when I joined Gearbox in March, everybody was on fire, right? We've talked some in this podcast about, the art style change after years of development, all that. They just done that. They were doing it. We had a whole episode, I think, where Randy and Mikey talked about like just putting in, I was there when the first time I saw the Marcus intro land in the game. Because I came in and they're like, you want to play test Borderlands? I'm like, yes, please. Like it had everything all the things I love about game, RPG, shooter, crazy style, good writing, all of that was there. It was like a game built for me. And I had little to do with that first part of it. I got to play test some, I got some feedback, but largely that first year I was working on a different project. I came in and got to be a cheerleader. I was really just a fan that first year. And while everybody at that point, right before a game comes out, there's always a lot of self-doubt. Have we done the right thing? Have we made the right decision? Is it going to work? And I was the one just sitting there saying, yes, it's good. It's really good. I'm going to play this. And I do. I think if you look at Steam, Borderlands 1 for me is something like 300 or 400 hours. Borderlands 2 is I played the hell out of that game because it's great.
did you feel like coming in as sort of an outsider? I mean, it's for anyone that's not in game dev, the last 6 months of a project might as well be the last 1 or 99%. Everything and nothing happens at the very end.
That's right.
There's so much work that went in before that you missed out on, that you saw a nearly complete product. Did you feel like you were the test bed? Like, hey, we've got someone internal who is excited about this, but you don't have any skin in the game, I guess is what I'm saying.
No. Well, yes and no. Like, here's the reason I've been at Gearbox all this time, because I worked some pretty cool places before this, but Gearbox, I want to be here for another 100 years, please. But the thing that's really awesome about that first year is, even though very few people knew me, I came from, another small game company in Dallas where I was doing some other stuff, and no one knew me. I was working on a different project, But every time I had a piece of like, hey, this is cool. What if you did this? And like, oh, I know you probably have no time left. Everybody, even on fire, listened to me, respected to me, heard. It'd be hard for me to say if I had any material change contributions in that, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like a valued part of the team from literally day one at Gearbox. And
there's a sickening enthusiasm that runs throughout this company. It's a virus
for sure. Yeah. So it was one of those things that in that first month they're like, I want to be here forever because this is fun. Like these people aren't rejecting me. They aren't casting me out as an outsider. I was working on Brothers in Arms originally, and it was a very, very different tone of project from Borderlands, right? And so, but I never felt dismissed or unheard or unwelcome. It was really great at the beginning. And I think, Randy, you're talking about how we've always strived to put everybody in Borderlands that's been invited. That's been the case from the very beginning, probably even before I was here. But it was awesome. It felt good, and it makes me really excited. It's something I've tried to replicate with my team, and I hope we replicate for years going forward. And
to be fair, though, you probably came in seeing like the worst possible way to land a game. Like today, like sure. we're pretty good now. We're relatively sophisticated. Yeah. We like to land the plane. With Borderlands 1, it was like. Like that, it was nuts.
It dropped from orbit and landed.
It was VTOL. It was not a landing. It was a vertical.
But passionate people make passionate games, and that's always been something that's been awesome about here. And it sometimes creates hot landings because you're trying to. I think we work right up to the bell and then beyond.
So it's pencils down.
It's like you work till midnight.
I can still do doodles in the margin.
It's like those scenes in movies, where you have till midnight to make the decision, and the clock starts striking, and literally the scene is going on where the person is still doing stuff, and bong, and you're doing bong. Like that's how it feels around here. But that energy is great, and all the producers that are listening to this are telling me, "Shut up, Varnell. Shut up, Varnell. We want to." And I think you're right. There's a maturity that's come as we master and get better at games where we're a little bit better than that. But we work until we are forced to put pencils down to get everything that we can in the games. And
maybe that's the kind of the thing is the people that tend to thrive at Gearbox tend to have what I call high give a shit factor.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to give a shit. You know what I mean? And when you do, it's like you can't stop us. We're gonna make stuff happen.
Ward, you came in just over 2 years ago, so BL3 is already out.
Yeah, it just came out.
How did you experience Borderlands from the inside at the end of our last major release?
Well, I mean, so for me, what put Gearbox on the map for me was Borderlands 2, and everyone took note of that, right? And game studios were studying it, and like, how can we, do what they did, kind of thing. And it wasn't until Borderlands 3 came out that it felt like the saturation was just kind of turned up a bit, and the art style had just jumped. And for me, I was like, "This is incredible."
It's the hardware generation.
Something, yeah, it could have been that too, right?
No, I mean, from a player standpoint. I did a lot of research preparing for this and went back to all of the games.
Feedback?
And for me, it was between 2 looks amazing. Booting up 3 for the first time in forever, you're like, "Oh my goodness!"
Right.
Like this is. It's sharp, it's crisp, it's dynamic.
With 2, we still were supporting 480p.
Wow.
Yeah, which
we didn't have to, like with 3, it was like, okay, everyone's HD now.
Yeah.
So it changes everything. Like from like line, when you're talking about like the shading we do with the line thickness and some of that other kind of work, it changes that fidelity change just makes that intent of that graphic novel look in real time really, really pop in a way it never could on prior generations. It's one of the reasons why I've been so like gung ho for all the efforts that people have had to like remaster this stuff, and to like take the back catalog games and make them like run with more modern technology and modern graphics, and we up the content, we up the rendering, up the lighting, and I'm grateful because like the old games look like garbage to me, but now they look amazing. So when you buy the new games, as we like have these like remastered collections and remake collections, it's just awesome to be able, if this is your first time experiencing Borderlands 1 or 2 in today's technology, in today's world with this product, like that's the way to do it. I wish I could like be back then and have a time machine teleporter to play the games for the first time now, and then go back so I can.
And the good news is people have that opportunity right now. They have it always to always jump into the franchise and now experience it in that new way. So
yeah.
You don't have the time machine, but they do.
You know what's weird though too? A lot of us, our memory of it, like because we are moving forward with our experiences, will kind of fill in that. Right. You know, we feel this a lot sometimes with remakes of old nostalgia games. You know, where the memory of it is.
I think a lot about movies that I saw as a child on a 13-inch CRT TV, and then you see them again later in high def, and it's like, have I ever seen this movie before?
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
right.
Is it, so seeing that shift from 2 to 3, was it as a director or as a fan that you went something?
I think it was
special
as
here?
just as an artist. I think, you know, just recognizing what the animations, how just the jump, and for me, not even realizing that the two were connected. You know, and then being like, oh, that's a sequel. That's a third. Oh my God, it looks great. It's amazing. And I remember even playing that, and I'd played 2, and it was such a big jump in the whole, just the opening mission, just you know, with Claptrap. I found Claptrap a little bit less as desirable in 2. In 3, I was like totally following. I'm like, where do I go next? You know, and so it felt like narrative was a lot stronger in that game too. And I'd learned a lot since I met Randy about, like, you know, the efforts that actually took the jump from 2 to 3. Actually, the jumps from 1 to 2 to 3. And I just saw Gearbox was doing everything that I was like really attracted to. I was like, this
one thing
is
that
great.
we've learned on this podcast as we've gone from before the beginning to now and to the future and beyond is with every release, everyone involved is saying, let's do it bigger, let's do it better, let's do more fun, let's do better looking, better sounding, better story, like better character, everything. There's no desire to stagnate. Was that attractive when coming on board?
Well, that's the expectation, right? We're just talking about like Borderlands, the difference in the technology, and we're always chasing that, and the consistency of like we're not competing with anyone necessarily, because I think Borderlands is itself, but we have to be cognizant of what our audience is expecting, what they're playing on their, what other companies are doing with their consoles, and how they're finding new colors and et cetera, et cetera. So that's just opening the door for us to do greater things. I don't think there's a stagnation ever of. You know, I think artists get sick of working on the same IP at the same time. So even us, we have to kind of renew it for ourselves to be interested in it. If we kept making Borderlands 1 and then Borderlands 1 and then Borderlands 1 and then Borderlands 1, yeah, we'd have a serious drop-off rate.
And Varnell, to your point, it's that stagnation is sort of, it sounds like it's instantly eliminated by the enthusiasm within.
Oh gosh, like yeah, I can't think of many places where we've really gone stagnant. Like every game that we've done, we have this really cool thing that we do with Borderlands, right? Where we stay kind of alert and focused on what are people digging? Who are the characters that people like the most? When you go to a convention, we're the ones that are really being cosplayed, right? And we even do some research. We have a whole team, but we look at that and we're like, okay, we're going to bring some of that forward. We always love that familiar, but every game we also we want to create some new. And I think we found a really good general pace for the Borderlands franchise about always bringing some percentage forward, so we create that feeling of familiarity while creating some new realm to explore.
And it's fun to do that in a framework. You know, it's like there's so much chicken and egg in game development, right? So it's like on one hand, you know, there's that kind of thinking that Varnell was just talking about, but we have to balance that also against like, okay, what theme are we committing to? What's the fun? Where's the real shit that's like in our storytelling? And like, okay, and then, you know, there's a certain point where every character kind of takes on a life of their own, and we don't have to create them anymore because they tell us what's going to happen. They tell us you know, how they'd react to a situation. And that's when you kind of know you've gotten there with a character, when they just
what would Ellie do?
Yeah, totally. Like, and it's like, okay. And so like when we're dealing
something sexual.
Right. So you have all these influences, right? We have like these themes and goals, like thematic goals and like storytelling goals and experiential goals and game design goals. And then you think about like, okay, there's the landscape of what exists. There's the dreams about what we want to try to create, and then there's like what players want and expectations are, and all that's in the soup, you know. And we got to figure out, okay, what go, you know, or those are all ingredients in the kitchen, I guess. And you have to figure out what's going in the soup. And
from a practical player standpoint, a place where I really felt that was in 3 when Sanctuary is a spaceship.
Yeah,
it's a familiar location with familiar characters that comes with you elsewhere. It's almost the perfect bridge.
And look at the murder we got away with that, right? Because like we wanted that to be a thing, but it's like at the same time, we expect a place where Moxie's gonna have her bar.
Yeah.
So we just put Moxie's bar on the spaceship.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense. We're like, fuck it. This is what.
Crazy Earl's in a closet on the
Exactly.
spaceship.
That's the other one. Crazy Earl's just like he's just like, what's he doing here?
And Marcus has a shooting range, like
Yes.
on the spaceship.
he
There's a
does. Of course he
shooting
does.
range, like.
Yeah, but it's fine. Like
OSHA's not gonna be happy
no,
about
no
it.
one's ever complained about any of those things because it feels absolutely correct and fine.
And that's what got me into this. All of that character, there's nothing boring in this game.
Right.
It's never a dull moment. And I still today find new things that I love about this property. And then how we've spun it off and stuff. It's just it's awesome.
I mean,
it goes on forever.
And when we get a little bored, then we throw in a Velociraptor as the holiday
Sure.
vendor. That's right. Because that makes sense. That's great.
We've talked a lot about what is special about Borderlands and sort of how we've expanded it. What is it about Borderlands that demands expansion beyond the main games into other media, into is it story and character, is it humor, or is it just good business?
No, look, one of the interesting things that happens when you make like with a game like Borderlands, fortunately there's a lot of people that love games like that. But it turns out that we have players that have literally spent thousands of hours in the Borderlands, and they have people in their lives that they'd like to share that with in some way. But those other people in their lives aren't going to like jump in and spend 1,000 hours doing a shooter looter. So by creating other kinds of ways that experience can be shared, then it sort of lets people come together in this fiction that they love, in this universe that they love, with the characters that they love. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of people that go see the Borderlands movie that have never played a Borderlands game, but they're going to have heard about it, or they're going to have been brought there by somebody who has already seen the movie and loves the games and wants to kind of bring them into the world.
Oh, that's fun.
And sometimes we'll create new gamers out of that. But it's also the other way around. The other mediums can do things that the video games can't. You know, with the video game, it's like, it's amazing that our species has figured out how to make this form of digital interactive entertainment where an audience can affect the outcome, can control the camera, can absolutely control the camera and have like total control over what they're looking at and where they're headed and what they're doing. And that's beautiful and amazing. Obviously, I've like committed my life to this medium, but there's other kind of things you can do in storytelling if the storyteller has control over the camera, and there's other things we could reach. And you know what Borderlands gives us is a place to mess around with that uncomfortable median between two opposing ideas, right? That's literally what the word means. It's the space between these other things, right? So, you know, from a genre level, mixing sci-fi and Western, you know, but from a character level, it's the difference between who a character is and who they wish they could be, and exploring that messiness between those two states sometimes could be done better in other mediums, whether that's a graphic novel or a comic book or a film, and it's awesome that we live in a time and place where it's possible to explore characters and a thematic intent behind an IP in multiple mediums. And I'm grateful that you know that our IP is earned that right to be able to do that.
Varnell, you're in charge of our overall narrative development for Gearbox. You oversee that department.
I do.
That department has produced, well, actually, that's not true. Before that department existed, we produced a comic miniseries written by Mikey Newman, Borderlands Origins in 2012, told the story of how the 4 original Vault Hunters met. We've done a series of novels with John Shirley from 2011 to 2013. We have another novel on the way from Anthony Birch for March of 24, set in the Tales universe. Is a full expanded universe the ultimate goal?
You know, I think, you know, listen to what Randy's talking about, like summing up how the interactive pulls us in. It is a really cool medium of storytelling. So I've never been a smoker in my life, but you describe people who smoke a lot as chain smokers. I've always described myself as a chain reader.
Right.
Right. I was the kid, like if you look at from the time I was about 10 till now, my book closet at home is just this stack of stuff.
And you buy every #1 comic that comes out every month.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other, we'll talk about that sometime else. I've got a problem now. But for me, one of the things I love about well-developed worlds is that feeling of when you're consuming that next chapter, that next section and all of that, and man, you're on the ride and you're loving it and it's got your hooks in you. And you love it and you feel like those characters are your best friends and like it's me and Lilith or it's me and whoever and I'm there and all that. And then that chapter ends. You finish that story, you finish that book, you finish that game. And I have this feeling, and I know it's a common thing in our culture. It's like, oh,
yeah,
it's over. And especially, man, when you get to the end of like a trilogy or something, and all I've ever wanted in my 10-year-old heart, is every time I have that feeling is to immediately, I need to buy the next one. And those moments when I can't go and get that next one, I'm like, I gotta wait a year. I've got to wait 2 years. I've got to wait 10 years for like some of it. It's like, it's always, And I think for me, Borderlands has reached so many people in that way of those great worlds that I love. And it's reached me too. I was a fan first and kind of got to inherit this, how do we do that? For me, if I can find more people out there, to catch onto that I want to get on the wave of Borderlands. I wanted to understand how much you can love this great, colorful sci-fi universe with humor and drama and real shit and all of the other stuff in it like we have. But the more I can, whenever someone in our group of friends and fans experience that, I want a little bit more. My job, it's the greatest job ever, is that how can I always have, I've got a little bit more coming. I've got a little bit more coming. Here it comes. So part of what we're looking at, you're asking about the future. It's can we obviously are doing that with have done that with games and hope to do that with games in the future. It's so much redacted that we can't say anything about right now.
Dude, there's a lot of unfinished business.
There's a lot
in
of
Borderlands 3.
unfinished business, but
Can
we do that in other places? Like you said, that we've got Anthony's novel coming out, and we're
we're doing it right now, aren't we? Literally right now.
That is a lot of what this is. Like this is not, maybe the next step in what happens with Lilith, wherever she went. But
it's something to say to a Borderlands fan.
I'll just say it. Like, Lilith's not dead. Everybody should
cut.
know that.
You know that's getting
Everybody,
cut.
no, come on. She, in Borderlands 2, she bamfed the fucking sanctuary. Like, we know she has this capability when the moon's the problem, and it's literally made of iridium. Like, she's got all the juice she needs.
All these nervous people standing in the darkness back there.
Like, it's cool. It's fine.
Well,
it's fine.
They all work for you. I don't know.
Everybody can anticipate that, and that gives away nothing. That gives away nothing. It literally gives away nothing compared to what we're doing. Holy shit! No, but like I can literally tell you what happens next with Lilith and what Elpis and all that, and it gives literally nothing compared to what we actually have coming.
But building stories in that keep asking those questions, like I don't think they're ever. I think if a franchise and if a fiction, if a universe works well, the ones that I love are the ones that always ask the question, and what's next? Mm-hmm. And what's next? My favorite stories, we always, and it's a common thing to do. It's, we always stay to watch the credits at the end of a Marvel movie because it asks the and what's next question. And we've always tried to seed those types of things through.
We can't help ourselves because the most excruciating thing in the world, when you're like, whether you're reading a book or watching a movie or hearing a story being told or whatever, is if you love it and it comes to an end and it's so freaking tidily wrapped up that there's never going to be ever anything again.
Yeah.
That's the most painful thing in the world. Like, the worst sentence ever imagined by storytellers is, and they lived happily ever after.
Right.
And like, no, I want more time with this. This is crazy. I want to see my favorite people dealing with stuff, and I want them to find love and see how they deal with pain. And I want to I mean, I learn about myself when I spend time with these characters.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if something's vibing, the last thing I want is for it to be over. When I was a kid and I used to read Roald Dahl books, I would
Yeah.
just die.
Yeah.
Like when they were over. I was like, are you kidding me? Like this was amazing. And now I will never have more time with James and his giant beach because it's over.
Vault Hunters, it's Daddy again. I'm going to cut right to the chase. I know you've been playing Borderlands behind the gym after school. Don't try to deny it. Gone easy on you in the past. I guess it's just not getting through to you anymore. So, you want to be a big grown-up Vault Hunter and play Borderlands? Well, you're going to play Borderlands. In fact, you're going to sit right here and play every single Borderlands game to date, and all for one great price. With the Borderlands Collection Pandora's Box from Gearbox and 2K. Don't roll your eyes at me. Let's see how much you still want to play Borderlands after you finish this generous and fairly priced bundle on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. That's right, you're playing it all 3 times. Talk back to me again. Playing it on current and last-gen hardware. That's what I thought. Now go to your room and don't come out until you've platinum Borderlands 1. Kids. Something Varnell said to me a while back. I actually wrote it down because it actually, like, I don't know, it kind of meant something to me. Was with Borderlands, we've opened Pandora's box. Why would we close it? Why would we even want to? Is that the driving philosophy?
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
That's so awesome.
I was literally on probably 4 cups of coffee that day. It just came out.
That's how it felt. Yeah, it was pretty manic.
Yeah. I mean, look, we.
I don't think we can. I don't think it's possible. That's the other thing about Pandora's.
Right.
It's not even, if you wanted to close the box, it's just not possible at this point.
Yep. In terms of the ways that Borderlands grows and evolves and necessitates it's sort of its own evolution. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, an entire new massive game born out of a DLC. How natural is that process, or was that a pressure point? Like, was it difficult to figure out if that was the right move?
Oh my God, the world will never know how difficult it's been for me to crack that nut. I've been wanting to do a fantasy game since I founded the company in 1999, and when we stumbled upon Borderlands, it's like, oh, this game system is perfect, and the suffering, the suffering. But it's here now. So now we've got it, and it's a new, like, wow. There's a beachhead with it. You know, Wonderlands sold more in its first year than the original Borderlands did. So it's like, okay, we're on now. So
yeah, that's
dude,
awesome.
let's not screw this up. Let's go for it. Let's go. So yeah, I'm pumped for that.
Pumped for the future of Tina. Ward, you would have been here during the completion of Tiny Tina. Did you work?
I worked. Yeah,
on that game?
we opened up the opening cinematic, and I directed the opening with some great feedback from these guys.
Were there aspects to it that you went, okay, I couldn't have done this in a Borderlands game, but I can do this here? Or did it feel seamless?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that we're dealing with her mind and this whole play set she's brought to life. I mean, honestly, it's what we do for a living.
It's a real world, but with a overlay of fantasy. Not fantasy,
like,
but literally one child's fantasies.
Like the fourth wall, the fifth wall. It just keeps getting deep.
You know, I'll give you a little anecdote on Matt Ward here. When I first
he's
met,
the model for Tina. We all know that.
Well, here's the thing. You're talking about working on that and what you love about that, and it's because you and Tina are a lot alike in this. The very first time I met Matt Ward, he introduced himself.
I can't wait.
Listen, he introduced himself as a professional show and teller.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what Tina, especially in Bunkers and Badasses, is. She's the bunker master. She is the show and teller for the world. And that whole beginning sequence that you got to touch and work on is her.
I'm worried.
Welcome to my world.
I'm worried that Varnell relates to me and Tina.
And by the way, if you dissect that opening cinematic, it's like, I mean, Matt directed that, and the team at Gearbox that works for Matt on that is amazing. But it's like, just on so many levels, I think it's like the best kind of version of a cinematic that Gearbox has ever done. Like, forgetting about like your judgment on like the content, just thinking about just the technical execution of intent and how tight that is, and how dude, just the way the book comes into existence, and like, oh my God, it's like, I'm just so grateful that like Matt's here to make that shit so much better than our shitty ass stuff that we did back in the day.
Was that your goal on Tina to like, I got to wow these guys?
I mean, my goal was to recognize the talent that was already here, and then honestly shine the spotlight on them. And it couldn't have been done with again, like Randy said, the team here.
Well,
I was lucky to come on and have some great artists already in place.
And there was some really remarkable talent that you just kind of helped shine at the end. Like Kent Alfred and his team had done a bunch of work on that.
Yeah. Mike Cosner.
But it was awesome.
That loop between like direction and you're in a situation where you've got a creative director, Matt Cox, but then you've got like me showing up. Like I'm the CEO and I'm like microing like, this, I think we need 1/10 of a second here. Like I'm doing like crazy and like, it's what the fuck? But to manage that between the talent and all these, and holy crap, look at the result that you do. Like that's the real, that's hard stuff, dude. I know what that's like. We usually, a lot of times, creative director types and director types can really get destroyed in a place like Gearbox because you've got everyone on the team cares so much. So there's a million voices and influences that we care, that everybody has, their voices are meaningful. And then you've got like a character like me who comes from game development. I'm not a suit, dude. So I'm going to get in there, my sleeves are rolled up and I'm messing stuff up. But I have all this like authority and responsibility. He's the new guy and could immediately go, oh, this is Randy not trying to be CEO. He's just creative hat right here. And the things that work, I'll take. And the things that don't, I can tell him to fuck off. And I can work with Randy in that way. And I was like, oh shit. That's awesome.
I think it was like one of the first emails I wrote back to you. I kind of responded to every one of your notes. And I remember, I think I didn't say no to anything, but I said, Randy, if we do this, it's going to cost blah, blah, blah. And the coolest thing is Randy came back going, okay, it's awesome. Yeah. And I think working with Randy, it's like Randy will insert himself when he sees a problem. He just wants to help solve it. And I think that's what's great about everyone here, is especially on the high level leadership. They just want to come in and help solve it. It's not like they say, I have the solve. It's like, let me help. And then we all work together. And we again, that's a perfect example of me being able to come in and have that support and also collaboration with all these guys that knew it way better than I did at the time. Especially.
How do you decide whose advice to take in that position? Is the shot king, or are you trying to please anybody else?
No, I mean, I think we're trying to do the best job for the audience. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just like the audience has to get it. They have to get the story. We have to deliver it, and that's what cameras do. That's what controlled cameras do. In a way, that's what the game does when you're playing it, all the mechanics that are behind that for that experience. So we have to make sure that everyone at home gets it, enjoys it. Again, it comes down to just entertaining the world.
Yeah, I think when we do our best, it's when we're in those moments and we start to parse. That's my opinion. But what is the person who's seeing this for the first time? What is the fan of our franchise? What is the new person? What are they going to get out of this? What are they going to love for that? And we can really put ourselves in those seats. That's when I think we're at the top of our craft.
As Borderlands continues to expand beyond video games, we've mentioned there's a movie coming out slated for August 9th, 2024. Includes Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, Jack Black. I don't even want to know how this cast came together. I feel like untoward things were done to get all these people in a video game movie. There's Oscar winners on that list now. That's outstanding.
It is.
When did a feature film become a goal for Borderlands?
Oh my God. I started that process before Borderlands 2 came out.
So
The
2011-ish?
Over a decade.
Wow.
It's been over a decade. And when I met the Arads at Arad Productions, Avi and Ari, Avi Arad was the founder and CEO of Marvel. And he and Ari, were coming at me saying, hey, like we think what we did for comics, we think that needs to happen for video games. That video games, there's real stuff here, and I like that thesis, but I beat the shit out of them. Like I made them, because dude, over the years, so many folks have tried to option property and come after us, trying to get us to hand over the keys to our babies so they can try to exploit them, and they earned it. So the first 3 years were probably just me just beating just courtship. And then, it because I was so cruel to them, I say nonchalantly, like we spent a lot of time, we became friends, and like I'm playing League of Legends with Ari, just right. For no reason. We're just like, oh, let's team up, and we're like, I don't know, for weeks and weeks we're just playing League of Legends every night. And it allowed a lot of trust and understanding. And I think that's key when you're working with people on things that are really important. But that this movie thing, it's been a long road, but it's been one that we've really invested ourselves in too. Gearbox has spent a lot of resources, my own time and a lot of time of people just to both understand the process, but that same attitude, just trying to make, like Matt and his team, they literally rendered CG that's in the freaking movie. Like the rendered here at Gearbox, it's pretty dope.
Yeah.
It's
What
pretty dope.
does it mean to have a resource like that in-house? Where, I mean, do you feel like almost emergency support, or is it just like we're the SEAL team ready to be deployed?
No, I think we're an extension of connecting those two, and that's what excites me is that the film industry, the game industry will maybe never completely connect, but we're recognizing where we can cross over a lot more. And having teams in house, and again, just seeing how Gearbox, when the film was kicked off, was so involved in this, and that might have just been Randy, but all the people that Randy's invited into that has been pretty amazing. Because I've worked with other studios that have actually worked with other studios and other game studios connecting that, and it's usually the IP is just kind of written off and it's licensed and it's gone. And then
we've seen the evidence. A movie comes
Absolutely.
out that has nothing to do with the game that you
Absolutely.
love.
So the fact is we've built a team that's able to help ensure that the integrity of the game and the IP is present in the film by being hands-on with it. And it's more than just like consulting at a table. It's actually like doing a lot of the work and helping.
You're doing
inform.
pre-viz,
Doing
you
pre-viz,
did some
post-viz.
post-viz,
Yeah.
and the most, and this is happening like literally in real time right now because and I don't even know what I'm allowed to say or not, but who cares? It's fine. I'm not gonna spoil anything here.
You can always edit it.
But we were working on some stuff. There was this idea for something that could help, and the director and the editor liked it, and the producers liked it, and so it's like, okay, let's give it a shot. And so we created some animation. It's like, this is great, and we did it with a rig that was compatible with the rig in the movie for a character, and then it was like, well, shit, like nobody can render this, and like it was like, well, why don't you give it a shot? So like Matt and his team literally render it from a video game engine, and probably 10 or 15 back and forths with lighting and with
So a little bit of feedback.
yeah. But now they're just
Visual
like,
effects.
they're like, you did it. This is great.
Yeah,
It's like, oh wow, it turns out, and look, that should be no surprise. Unreal Engine has rendered shots in freaking The Mandalorian.
Sure.
And it's you can let it bake longer and get like really great results. But it's the first time we've done it.
Yeah,
And it's really cool.
This is our first step of something I think that we all want to.
It's a live action movie, by the way. Like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like
A lot of
this
people
is,
know that.
Yeah, this is a live
Yeah.
action movie. This
Yeah.
is not like it's legit CG trying to fool the eye into believing
We
it's
had
reality.
to make it look. We had to take the. I mean, again, we had to match the photorealism of it. So
Yeah, it's pretty great.
But I think we do this more going forward. Matt,
Absolutely.
it's the reason that you're here with us, that we wanted to invest in someone that has a substantial past in Hollywood and film.
Well, let's
right?
talk about that. Gearbox is moving into transmedia with comics and film and game, like physical games, card games, board games. Gearbox also has a slate of IPs beyond Borderlands. Duke Nukem is one of the most recognizable game franchises in the world, and there's a film in the works with Legendary and the Cobra Kai team. Brothers in Arms with a TV series. We've got more IPs, Homeworld, Risk of Rain. We have a good working relationship with Dark Horse. There's a lot of things in the works.
We just got the Borderlands source book.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Done in
I just got my
partnership.
copy.
We did. That was a great
And I noticed you
collaboration
can
with-
just buy it on Amazon, and like because
can.
it just launched, it's like they do the 10% off, trying to juice it a little bit. So if you want, you can buy the Borderlands source book right now for 10% off on Amazon.
which our internal team did a lot of editing to just ensure the
we're
quality
working
and
with the Dark
credibility.
Horse guys. Dark Horse published it. It's freaking beautiful book. It's amazing.
So with these multiple well-loved, highly regarded IPs expanding into transmedia, how do we manage it all? Randy Varnell.
yeah, ask him.
Well, you drink a lot of coffee in the morning, drink a little bit of bourbon in the evening. No, it's Randy and I have been kind of dreaming and working up to this over, gosh, the last 6 or 7 years, definitely on this. We in around Borderlands 3, I built first kind of a small narrative team to bring to get it out of just like, because, Borderlands 2 is written by Anthony Birch. And then, right, right. And Anthony is amazing. He's a mutant of a writer. And he did and he worked, of course, there's a lot of other creators that can contribute to mission and character design and all that. And they were a big group, but that was the only titled writer we had on that, right? And then in Borderlands 3, we had like 4 or 5 credited writers on that. We built the team a little bit bigger. But even more than that, the narrative, we started to acknowledge that the narrative of a game everybody has to contribute to that, right? So we were meeting regularly with a creative director, with Randy Pitchford was in tons of meetings with us earlier on that. And that idea, and I think we really started to say, wow, this is awesome. We're just starting on this massive universe.
Built an engine.
To build an engine
that
built
a narrative construction engine.
And then from there we turned narrative into creative development, where we started to build towards cinema and bring cinema in it and other things. And then just over a year ago, Randy said, hey, I want to build an entire division that is like the connective tissue for what we do in the games and what we do outside of the games, that can remember our lore and that can do some forward thinking about franchise planning and all of that together, and then do it for all of the franchises that we have. And I'm like, I'm your man.
I volunteer as tribute
because I can't stop. I love worlds and I love stories and I love development and I love
reader.
I love all the different types of media, right? So we built Gearbox Properties. We started Gearbox Properties that stands aside Gearbox Software, and Gearbox Publishing is another group. And we're not as big as those teams, but we have a mix of writers and visual storytellers and cinema, and then whatever you are, Joel.
My title is creative producer.
People that have passion and talent for caring about franchises, and then taking them and turning our imagination into real product that we can give those moments that our fans say, I just wish I had a little bit more Borderlands in my life. Joel Watson brings us a podcast. Matt Ward brings us some animated things that you'll see maybe next year in the movie, and other stuff, right? And then we still have the game teams. And the hope with Properties is that we can help do more than we've done in the past, and also do it more consistently, but always keep that radar on our customers. What do they like? How can we give them more of what they love and less of what they don't? How can we build on that and build those things so that they can, with us, just be delighted and surprised by what we do with these stories in the future?
Yeah, and it's also about cohesiveness with different teams working on different kinds of products and projects, right? Like if you've got a group of people making plushies, what do they know what Borderlands is, and how do they interact with the team? Game developers are busy. So Properties gets to become the custodian of intellectual property across all manifestations.
In fact, there's a really great anecdote on that. It happened just before Properties, but as an example, like in Borderlands 3, we were working on the new look of Mad Moxie, right? And she runs that bar on Sanctuary you talked about earlier, and Art had made this really beautiful model. It looks really, really great and all that. And one of my writers said, hey, she's missing a heart tattoo. She has a heart tattoo on her chest. And Art was like, and we were, Art, it's better. And the writer said, well, normally that's the case. Like, you artists are awesome and you do great work, and we love to see the new visions, and you're always thinking about the journey that the character's on and everything. But that tattoo is actually really important because it's a clan tattoo that goes back to Moxie's story. It's a past that she's overcome. It's really important to us. And our fans know this, and our cosplayers know it. You could see it on the cosplayer. And we actually had to have the art team open back up the asset
come to
later
Jesus
on, right?
meeting.
Well, we don't want to be mean about it, but it was one of those times that we had to say, hey, we have a responsibility to our customer, and like you said, the cohesiveness and the continuity of that sometimes those things are important. Sometimes they're like totally not important. Cool, we'll let it go. But sometimes it is connected to stories and connections to other people.
Can you imagine what would
that.
have happened if we shipped Borderlands 3 and Moxie had no heart?
We would have shut down. We would have shut down the company for sure.
Yeah,
it was critical. It was like
for some people it would have been a gnarly. There would be feelings.
It's small stuff, but it's 10,000 small things.
I think
right?
I think that care and respect for the small stuff is what kind of makes it work. You know, it's like
Yeah.
there's a million things and they're all small, but everything is important. So it's like
One of the things that really struck me is odd but really interesting about properties as you were putting the team together, as you were building out the roles that were necessary to complete this mission, was the addition of a lore master. I feel like that's a job that people, don't know exists, especially don't know exists in video games.
It needs to exist in every game company.
So once any world, and I think, like if you have an individual novelist who's writing your book, they're their own lore master. You know, to be internally consistent, you have to keep a Bible. You have to record all those notes and all of that. When that's being done by a team and a growing team and a larger team on a franchise that has, 4 main games, 15D, all the stats you shared at the beginning, it's something as big as Borderlands. You need dedicated people that record all of that. So we found an amazing person. Kayla Lee is our lore master, who is, I kind of describe her as 30% library scientist, 30%, hostage negotiator, and 30% technician, because she has to build not only documents, but systems where anybody who's working on our content, our partners, whether they're inside the studio or outside the studio, we can give them, here's the definitive description of how you write Claptrap's voice, and here are examples, and here are his past, here are facts that are unchangeable about him, and there's things that you can play with, because Marcus said it, and who knows if Marcus was telling the truth, right? So we have those documents that we share internally, and if we do that job, it sounds like the nerdiest job ever, and it is, and I love it.
Sure.
I'm a turbo nerd. I just, it scratches all my itches. But if we do that job really well, what it gives us is the ability, is like we were saying at the very beginning of this podcast, to invite other friends and partners to the creative space to us, to add their specific creative talents to what we do, but with enough rails that it doesn't compromise the story that we're already telling with our customers, and tread on ground of people that really love. And I think every great artist loves to know what are the boundaries and constraints, so I don't cross any line, and then I can go nuts in there.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we have fun. If we do that job well, then we can go faster. So to scale up an engine where we're doing this not only for Borderlands, but for all of our properties at Gearbox, having someone, and in fact, all of our writers and all of our creators, you've contributed to the Lore Bible and several of our products, right? Everybody does. But having one person at least that's at the helm, that's landing it all and organizing it all for us, it is absolutely a full-time job. If I weren't doing this job, there's a version of me in a multiverse that's got a lore master, a big wide-brimmed lore master hat with a feather on it somewhere, that's like cracking my knuckles. And today we're going to talk about, the colors.
Claptrap has never canonically referred to his own butthole, so he probably doesn't have one.
Right.
But if you want, we can have a discussion with legal.
The lore master though unlocks crazy stuff, like
that's right.
This project with GenVid. Like, there's no way, there'd be confidence to let something like that happen without the fact that properties exist and there could be some connective tissue.
Yeah, EchoCast.
Look it up. It's wild. Like this might be a thing in the future of interactivity, and those guys certainly are really trying to do something that's never really been done before. And the fact that we can do it with Borderlands is awesome, but we have to take a risk, both with like what is the canonical connective tissue with Borderlands and how other people are going to play in that space with us.
As we talk about the weird jobs that come up in properties, what was the impetus for a cinema department instead of the cinematics artists that were already here?
I think the way that a lot of game studios are valuing visual storytelling that is non-controlled and not experienced by the player, not designed by designers. And it helps narrative align players. It helps more people get together, but it also connects to the world of the next visual storytelling of film. I mean, the term cinema and cinematics comes from that. And so I think more and more companies, including Gearbox, were recognizing the value that team can bring, and not just specifically into the game, but also outside of the game. And I think what happened was, like, when Gearbox was already like, deep into the production of the film, they were realizing like, wow, this is an untapped resource that we haven't really focused on as much. There's great cinematics in the Borderlands games and the other IPs, but we're going to take it to the level of which now, like we were talking earlier about expectations from players and from our audience, that are going to meet that and surpass it, but also continue to connect that mental real estate that we're used to seeing at 24 frames per second in a darkened theater.
You worked with Star Wars, Lucasfilm. You've worked, as Randy said, on The Matrix. You've worked with Robert Zemeckis. How do you bring that film experience into video games? How does it apply, and where is it totally different?
Well, they're in short spurts, right? For a cinematics team, so it's connecting the dots. I've always said that the best cinematics are the ones that align the players, that give them a chance to just for the story to sit down and sink in, and allow the audience to go, oh, okay, now I know the why, and now I know why I care, and push that through. I mean, it's so easy to make a first-person shooter that you go around and just kill bad guys, but when you
why would I care a pretty good opening question for stuff like that?
I think so. I mean, I think that's where story ultimately. I think that's what actually makes people come back to play a game, is why I care.
And what is the SGC?
Oh, the Society of Game Cinematics. As of recently, so more and more game companies are actually investing in cinematic content, connecting it more to the marketing side of things. Very, very typically, you'll see marketing content featuring mostly game cinematic content, or externally made or internally made. And so we're starting to see more and more of that across the industry. So me and several friends, other cinematic directors and producers, started to have shared knowledge conversations. And we started to say, how do you do things like that? And how do you do things? And hey, you've done this before. How does that work? And we started to notice everyone's doing it differently. And that's kind of film for its core for the past 100 years has made movies pretty much the same way.
Right.
Games, everyone makes them differently. And when it came to cinematic content, we wanted to ensure that we were all helping one another rather than competing with one another. And so we started a society, much like the VES or the Academy of Art and Sciences, that was focused on how we can make better cinematic storytelling inside of games and complement the game and complement the game experience. So it's a great little society.
Is this the tipping point where the games companies have a bigger seat at the Hollywood table? Or do we not need that? Like,
who cares? Let's just entertain people. Let's just make things that make people happy.
Well, you always remind us that, and you do this a lot because we talk a lot together in meetings about strategy and how do we get things done and how do we do this entertain the world thing. And I love one of the things, Randy, that you do is you say, like, look, if we don't have to do, like, there's an instinct of creators to want to bring it all in here and do it all ourselves. This is my creation, mine, my precious, right? And you remind me all the time that, but there are whole segments of the world that if we're trying to reach and people that we're really trying to bring into our family, we can't do it all ourselves. We have to find partners, and we have to have friends and people that we can trust. And especially as we go into other mediums, that like I've spent most of my life on making video games, on making software. I know a lot about that, right? Matt, when I watch you talk deeply about film stuff and get into that, I know a little bit because I've been around it a little bit, sort of, kind of, but you've done things that I've never even begun to touch. And it's really cool to watch. Oh, that's how you do that there. That's how this is organized. This is the work. And what's really cool is when we get to work with other partners and other people who have specialty, we don't have to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to build those relationships and those friends and bring them in and then let everybody do the thing that they're great at and then share the universe together.
When we make Borderlands on Broadway, I promise you that you and your team will not have to do any choreography.
Yes. Okay, good,
well, that's good because I cannot dance. No one wants that. Claptrap and I are about the same level.
I do want to write Claptrap's "I Want" song though. That's I'm ready. Give me the piano. It's time to go. Borderlands is just getting started. Is sort of the vibe that I get from this whole conversation. It's almost not even a time to gut check where we are, but it's more about what haven't we done.
It's excruciating because it's the most commercially irresponsible thing in the world right now would be to talk about the stuff we're all working on for
Right.
the future. But the future is like embarrasses the past.
Is that what you hope if we're having this conversation in 5-10 years? Do you feel like that's the same? Oh, we haven't even started. Or
Gosh, I don't know, man.
Maybe
I
we
mean,
can get to 2%. Right?
after a solid 2 decades of effort.
Here's the trick. There's so many awesome and creative people around us here that, and when ideas begin to manifest in our minds, they're kind of beautiful and perfect, and we can see them. But the act of actually taking that from a mind and turning it into something tangible and manifesting it in the real world that can be shared and people can access, it takes a huge amount of effort. And so I think that the vision of what could be will always radically outpace the reality of what's been created. And I love that. Like, that doesn't frustrate me. That turns me on. That animates me. That gets me up in the morning. You know what I mean? And I'm here for it.
Is that how Borderlands entertains the world? Does it accomplish our mission in that way?
Well, it's certainly a part of it, right? I don't know that the entire world is going to vibe with our crazy sci-fi Western, this ridiculous art style and this absolutely wacky stuff that we do in the game and it's a juxtaposition from the hardest, grittiest, gnarliest stuff to the craziest, wackiest, loosest, and that is also like the borderland between those two ideals. That the whole world's not going to vibe with that. So, but the ceiling is definitely higher than what we've seen so far, and I think with what we're working on now, when it comes to be talked about and commercialized, I think we're going to get a better picture of what that ceiling could be.
Absolutely. There's only one thing left, and it's the most important thing. Randy Pitchford's already done this. I'm going to offer you the opportunity if you'd like to do a redo, but this is who does the best Marcus? The line is, so you want to hear a podcast, eh? Now, I can take your score from the first episode. You're already
on the board.
You're already on the board. You're like in the top 3 right now.
We're all straightening up right now. Just getting set.
So if you don't want to break that curve, you can abstain. Varnell, I'm going to put it to you. Do you want to get us started?
Ooh, sure.
So, you want to hear a podcast, eh?
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Ward, can you?
He's got a smile when Marcus is he's happy. He's happy to tell you this story.
I'm going to give you
So you got to smile. I'm going to tell you how you do this.
I'm going to give you a clue that no one else has I think, gotten onto yet, because I think I might want you to destroy Varnell.
What's that?
He's got a jowly voice. There's heft in his mouth that no one's really.
He's got a little cotton in there.
Yeah, a little
chewing
bit.
tobacco.
A little bit.
But he's happy when he says it. All right.
Let's hear it.
I should have practiced.
So you want to hear a podcast?
I knew this was coming.
So, you want to hear a...
No, you were so close.
He popped the chute
All right, here we
halfway
go.
through.
You were so
That's right.
close.
Oh, no.
All right, here we go. All right. Everyone quiet. I need to concentrate.
Quiet on set.
So, you want to hear a podcast? So you want to hear Matt Ward do a Matt Marcus? So you want to interview? Yes. I'm going to finish the rest of the podcast like this.
Oh, it's a good thing it's over
Yeah.
then. It's an excellent thing that we've come to the close.
Should I take another swing? Do you want?
Do it.
I'll tell you
no,
what.
yeah.
I'll even give you this. I'll give you the best of your 2 scores.
Oh hell! Then I have to take.
You got to do it. Why not?
Go.
Why not?
So you want to hear a story, huh? Oh wait, hold on. It's podcast.
Oh, look at the
So you want to hear a podcast, huh? Have I got a podcast for you?
Oh dear.
Okay, I think you did better than last
I
time.
hate to say it. I hate to say it because we all literally work for him, but that might be the best one.
Yeah.
That might be the best one.
That Randy's done it the most, though. And, he's doing it in the car. He's at
I've
home,
been
in the
practicing
shower.
this
Yeah, in the
since
shower.
the last time.
In the shower.
I heard
every
him
day.
walking down the hall. So.
calling Ari and Evia Rudd. So, you want to hear my impression, eh?
We did it, you guys.
We did it. We did it.
We did it, you guys.
Thanks for joining us, Vault Hunters. If you've made it all the way to the end of Season 1 of Echoes from the Borderlands without subscribing to the audio version wherever podcasts are available, or subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GearboxOfficial, what's going on with you? How weirdly irresponsible. Are you in trouble? Do you require assistance? No? Then subscribe now, or you're going to miss out on future seasons and future special episodes. If you play video games, and who doesn't, and you'd like to get every current Borderlands game at one great price, snag our new bundle, the Borderlands Collection Pandora's Box, available now on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Huge thanks to my guests, Randy Pitchford, Randy Varnell, and Matthew Ward, as well as all of the guests we've had on this season and everyone else in the Gearbox family that worked on Borderlands, from QA to audio to mocap and more. You've heard the stories from some of the people responsible for the big ideas that went into Borderlands creation, but it took the hard work and extreme talent of hundreds and hundreds of people over dozens of disciplines to bring this franchise to life, so we thank them all. One more time, I'd like to thank our behind-the-scenes heroes, April Johnson, Dakota Warren, Mark Petty, Rob Fernandez, Mike Cosner, and Hannah Terry. Additional thanks to everyone at Gearbox who contributed to this show, from cinematics to audio, marketing, communication, licensing, biz dev, and our director, Matthew Ward, who's directed every episode of this podcast. We couldn't, and we frankly wouldn't have done it without you all. Our theme song is Get Out of My Head by Wandermind. For Echoes from the Borderlands, for one last time, I'm Joel Watson. See you next time, Vault Hunters.